Right. All right, everybody, how are we all doing? I hope we're all well. I hope we're getting through this lockdown, and I hope we're all staying safe and following on and cracking on with the rules. Okay, so welcome to your third practical video now. I realised that there wasn't one last week. Rachel requested that she had a bit more time to go through her thing, so obviously we didn't go through any practicals, so let's get back on the ball. All right, a nice one. I've got a lot of time for today's session. We're going to be looking at health and handling, which I did the other week with the rodents and the domestics, but we're going to be doing it with the exotics. So I've got a boa constrictor booked out, and I've also got a Chinese water dragon booked out for today. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through general health check, general handling, with both of them, and then we're going to look at bathing, so looking at something using Boost, which is like a multivitamins and minerals, and they absorb it through the skin via the water. So we'll have a look at that, go a bit more into detail of that. First though, we're going to do an introduction with the animals here in the lab. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about them, very briefly, nothing major, and then we're going to go down to the unit. I'll get myself changed, and then we'll crack on. So first off, we're going to look at the Chinese water dragon. So they can actually get quite large. They can get up to about 1 meter in length. Now most of that is the animal's tail. So if it's got a long tail, I want you to think, where might it live, okay? Now this animal is arboreal, so the tail helps it balance. So they live up high in the treetops. When they're threatened, what they'll do is they'll jump down. They always live above water, they love to live above lakes, rivers, moving streams, that kind of stuff. And when they're feeling threatened, what they'll do is they jump out, they land in the water, and they swim away to safety, and that's their mechanism to escape predation. Obviously, if an animal's high up in the trees, when that lizard jumps down and it's in the water, a predator isn't going to want to follow it down, okay? Especially things like ambush predators or sneak predators who are kind of coming up slowly. They're then not going to switch their tactic and just jump straight down. So it's a good tactic for that animal to survive on. All right, so they're arboreal and they're very strong swimmers. They are from a family called Agamidae, which is iguana-like. Okay, so well, let's link this back to our first lessons and our previous sessions using our Latin names and our terminology. All right, now the Latin name for Chinese water dragon, you have to bear with me, it's quite tough to say. Physignathus cocincinus, okay, Physignathus cocincinus, all right, that is the animal's Latin name. So remember, we went over the binomial nomenclature system, so the two naming, all right, so Chinese water dragon is their common name, and Physignathus cocincinus is their Latin name. There we go, I'm glad I got that out. They are quite long-lived, they live to about 10 to 15 years. They're from China, Southeast Asia, mainland Southeast Asia I should say. You don't get them on the islands much unless they've been introduced there by mistake. Omnivorous, so they'll eat quite a lot. And a very interesting fact about them, they do mainly produce sexually, but they can also produce via something called parthenogenesis, okay? So parthenogenesis, if you don't know what that is, that means that the females can actually, they can breed and they can use unfertilized eggs in their, to create new Chinese water dragons. It's definitely worth a Google, very interesting. A lot of insects do it to survive, so they can use unfertilized eggs and, and create new life that way. Okay, so that's parthenogenesis, really interesting to have a look at, I would recommend it. A lot of animals use it as a survival tactic, fish and insects and things, okay? The next animal I said we're going to look at is the red-tailed boa. Now, anybody who wants to be a herpetologist should know that the red-tailed boa is another name for the common boa, all right? And it's one of the strange ones where the Latin name and the common name match up. The only other one I can think off the top of my head is an extinct animal called Tyrannosaurus rex, all right? So boa constrictor is the Latin name, boa constrictor is the common name, red-tailed boa is just a, it's kind of like a localized name that some people call it as well, okay? So they can get huge. They are very large, long-lived snakes. They can get up to about 13 foot is the largest specimens that have been found. Normally kind of can get them to about, 7 to 10 foot or something like that, but they do get very large. They're from the South Americas. There's a lot of subspecies, but there's a lot of arguments in the scientific world as well about, are they subspecies? Are they the same species that just look slightly different? There is one boa constrictor species that has been elevated to kind of its own separate identification status. And I can't remember off the top of my head what that's called, but it might be worth having a look at, really interesting. They do eat quite large prey. In the wild, they have been known to eat ocelots. And if you know what an ocelot is, it's a predatory cat. Okay, so they have been known to eat quite large things. They can live up to 30 years as well in captivity. All right, so it is a large, long-lived animal, and they get very heavy. I think the heaviest specimen ever caught ever weighed, obviously, was a captive specimen, and that came to 27 kilograms. I think that is a large snake, okay? So we're going to do health and handling with Theo, he's called, and he's a red-tailed boa, common boa. And just check if I missed anything. Oh yes, and they are viviparous, okay? Now I'm not going to tell you what that means. I want you to Google that and have a look at that yourself. So viviparous. So with reptiles and animals, you either get viviparous or oviviparous, okay? Oviviparous. And I want you to have a look at those yourself and really start deep diving into these kind of terminological words. Oof, excuse me. Okay, so there's the introductions to the two animals. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself changed. We're going to head down to the unit. We're going to get out the red-tailed boa first, and we'll do a little bit of health and handling with him, and then we're going to get out the Chinese water dragon and we'll go over health and handling with him. Okay, let's get down there. Okay everybody, so here we have our red-tailed boa. Now remember what we were talking about, red-tailed boa is just a colloquial name for boa constrictor, and remember that the Latin is boa constrictor. It's the same thing, okay, remember what we're saying about. Now, he's very active because he gets fed tomorrow. In terms of handling, you can see exactly what I'm doing, all right? I'm allowing him to get wrapped around me, but I'm not allowing him to kind of constrict me through. But so what I'm doing is, the main thing is I'm supporting the weight of him, okay? So when I'm working with him, you always support 2/3 of the weight as best you can. I would never let him around my neck, so that's a good point there, because obviously if he does decide to squeeze, you know, I'm here by myself and that could become a problem, okay? So main thing with snakes is you're always supporting the body weight. See, even there with one arm, I've got him there and I can put him down onto the table just like so if I have to, okay? Now he is very active, all right? Let's say he does need to eat. Now if you're going to do a health check, what I've done is I've taken a photo of a physical examination of a health check for a snake, and I'm going to put that up and I'm just going to talk over the top of it. So what we're going to do today now, while he's out, is we're really just looking at our handling and our restraining of him. So, easiest way to restrain a snake, guys, is a long glass tube. You put the head in, he's going to slither right in, you can hold his tail, he's in the tube, okay? There's that. You can hold him at the back, you can see exactly what's going on, all right? Now, if I did have to restrain him while he's out, okay, ideally I'd have someone else, but what you do, okay, make sure that he's supported, there we go, you see. If I did have to, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get just behind the head, you see here, and I'm just going to hold the head there like that. You see I've got control of the head there, alright, and now he's slithering his body around, but I can have a look, I can check his eyes, I can check everything I need to, and I'm at no risk of being bit. Then I'm just going to let go gently, there we go, you see, no bother at all. If you dilly around, and you take your time and you're in and out, okay, you are going to get bit, okay, because remember snakes do see thermal, they can have, some snakes do have heat pits, and they do have a sense of smell from their tongue. Now the tongue flickers out and picks up particles in the air, brings it into a specialised organ in the head called the Jacobson's organ, okay? So just again, I'll just get him, so I'm holding him, up we come, just got around the table, so I'm supporting the weight. If I have to, bring him onto the one arm, just behind the head and restrain. And I've got him there, and I can check the head as much as I need, and then when I'm letting go, gentle, there we go, nice and easy restraint of a snake, okay guys? Now like I say, the best way to do it, to minimise any kind of problems, glass tube, nice big glass tube, put him in. Especially with a snake that's hungry, you don't want to be getting bitten, and snakes will do something called a fake strike, where they'll strike at you, but they'll go to the side, alright? Now we don't think that Theo here, that you can see very well, so that's why I'm speaking quite loud, just so that he knows I am around, okay? But you can see he is having a good smell, his tongue's flickering out, that's good behaviour signs, he's very active, he's trying to make a picture of what's around him, so we're just going to let him kind of setting himself down, and you can see I'm using the table to the best of my advantage. I'm using it to help support, and again, you're never going to go and hold a snake by the head and the tail. It's not a skipping rope, okay, it's an animal. So you can see here I've got supported areas, alright, so you're always looking, if you split the snake into 3/3, hold at 1/3, you've got the middle third, and you hold it where the middle third and the back third meet, okay? So if you're ever in doubt and you're struggling a little bit, picture the snakes laying out 3 sections, where the first and the second section meet, that's where one hand goes, and where the second and the third section meet, lower back, that's where the other hand goes, and that's how you're restraining, that's how you're going to hold them, sorry, not the restraint, okay? Now remember again, don't let them near your face, you don't want an animal this big in your face, okay? And common health problems associated with boas, especially boas, is something called IBD, which if you're a herpetologist you'll know, inclusion body disorder. Okay, now inclusion body disorder has a very local name called stargazing.
And that is that when the muscles in the back become infected with it, they start to constrict and tighten and waste away, and what happens is the snake starts to look up, and that's where it gets the name stargazing. It is very infectious and it is fatal, so it needs to be quarantined, the animal, if it does show any symptoms. Again, stargazing showing up, or if it's starting to show pain in the back of the neck, back of the head, or down the body. And to check for that, obviously you can just run your hand across, but you need to quarantine the animal straight away, as it will pass it on to other snakes, especially boa constrictors like I've mentioned. And you need to get it to a vet for a treatment of antibiotics. Likelihood is, though, it's very fatal, and snakes often don't recover from it. Okay, so this guy we've mentioned where he's from the South Americas. He likes moist kind of areas, so he gets sprayed twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. He is very active. He's got a very powerful bite. As named, he is a constrictor, so he kills his prey by wrapping around it, squeezing them to death. And you can have a look, if you can see this line, you can see it's like a muscle, okay? Now, constrictors, snakes, they have muscles in their sides that feel heartbeats, and they feel when the prey is breathing out. So every time that the prey breathes out, the snake will squeeze tighter, and eventually breaking ribs. The animal can't breathe in, suffocates, and it will be able to feel when the heart is stopped as well. So the snake will not eat until it is definitely dead, okay? Until they're dead. They can feel the heartbeat in the side, but they feel every time the prey breathes out as well. And that's how they kill. And they will always eat from the head down. And that is because then the legs squeeze in and it's easier to swallow. Okay. Now there are obviously instances in the wild where an animal kind of passes out and stuff, and the snake eats it anyway. There's a very famous picture of a porcupine. Snake ate a porcupine. I think it's like an anaconda. And obviously the porcupine panics when it's awake and brings its quills up. So, you know, things do happen. These guys in the wild, they'll eat rodents, birds. I did mention ocelots. They can take quite big prey, obviously an adult. And remember, I did say they get very big. Now, even him, Theo, he's not very long yet, but you can see he's a very thick, stocky predator. And you can see a very, very well-built constrictor. You see he's got around my arm here. Don't be afraid when you're handling as well to let them wrap around you, like on your arms and stuff, if you're comfortable with that animal, to take some of the weight. So you see, that's a very easy way for me to hold him. I'm taking some weight. Okay, he's wrapped around, he seems comfortable. Now, he does breathe quite heavy. I don't know if you can hear that. We are aware of that. So in the future, you might need nebulizing, which is medicine that turns into a gaseous vapor, and you put him in a bag and he can breathe it in. We don't think he can see the best, like I have mentioned. So his tongue is flickering, so the forked tongue. And as I mentioned, they bring in air particles into the mouth and into the Jacobson's organ, and they build up a picture of what's around them. You can see, I mentioned a strong bite. Look at the very strong jaw pouches. Okay, muscles on there. And again, if I was going to check teeth again, what I'll do is I'll restrain at the back and I'll just push down gently on the neck and it would open the mouth. Now, I'm not going to do that again because I don't need to. You can simply just go on a YouTube video and show that. Easier to do with smaller snakes like corn snakes and things as well. But on the back of the head, and remember, if you're dillying and you just push down and you pull down and pull your thumb back. So it's like a Pez dispenser in a sense. You don't want to do it too tough, obviously, because you'll hurt the animal. Common equipment, snake hooks. Can be very dangerous though. They do have a forked edge on one side. You use the snake hook to get under the substrate and lift, and you manipulate the animal to a point where you can kind of take the tail or get underneath and lift out. You do not use the snake hook as the main point to lift the animal up. A snake will wriggle off, and just think as well, you remember I said about finding the thirds of the animal, so 1 2/3 and then 2 3/3. You put your animals in those meeting points. If you have a snake hook, you're not supporting any weight, and you're putting a lot of pressure into one area. Okay, look at snakes when they're in the wild and what they're wrapped up on. They have their bodies wrapped up. They're never really just, unless they're hunting, they're never really supporting everything on just one small piece of their body, are they? Okay, and that's going to cause issues. I can feel underneath of the scales as well. They're called scutes. Okay, so you can feel when he's moving around. They're very healthy. Again, the health check, I'll put a picture up. We'll talk over that next. We'll just do a very brief physical examination of a snake. But he's beautiful, isn't he? Love reptiles, guys, love them. Alright, and if you did ever have an aggressive snake, I'll just show you. I'll unhook him from the table. What you would do, get away from the body if you're getting him, and you would just hold the tail. Okay, and you can manipulate away from him. Alright, obviously he's quite a friendly snake, so we don't need to worry about it. But it does happen. Just get him from under the table. Come on, buddy. Oh, yeah, come. There we go. Alright, he is just looking for his food. So when they're moving around, you see, you would get the back of the tail. And remember, it's the back, because you're away from their mouth, you're away from the area of danger. Alright, just put him over There, show you one more time. So you would just hold, and you can see you can kind of get away from his head where you need, but you still got him. So I could move around him, move away from the head if I did worry that he was going to strike me in any way. All right. So you can see when I'm working with him, I am letting him go where he wants. I'm not just holding him still in one place. That's going to cause a lot of stress. Okay. You never as well go to pick the animal up by the head. Snakes are very sensitive on the head. That's why when we restrain them, the back of the head, you see, and I've got him held just like that. All right. And again, if you open the mouth, get him how I just did, push down, pull back. Okay. So very, very easy. All right. So let's move on to the next part.
So a physical examination of a snake, everybody. So before you do anything, as with any health check, you're looking at doing a behaviour check. Is the animal not active, aka is he basking or bathing? And secondly, is the animal active, and what is he doing as he is active? So is he scenting? Is his tongue flicking in and out? Is he searching for anything? Is he maybe perhaps looking for prey like Theo was? You could see he was very kind of, he's not erratic but active, slow and steady movements. Is he moving underneath the substrates? Again, erratic and fast, which we mentioned before. Is he looking for any food, or is he in his strike pose? Is he in his S position? Is his head keeled right back and he's ready to strike out, or anything other? Okay, so is he stargazing, or is there something else happening with that animal? And then once you've done your behaviour, you're going to be looking at your visual checks. Sloughing, is he shedding his skin? Ecdysis, okay. Has he got any burns or abrasions from any heat lamps? Has he got too close that haven't been caged off? Any lifted scales, which could be a sign of mites? And as we go down, you're going to be looking at things such as MBD as well. Can you see anything like that? Or any retained spectacles? Are his eyes going blue? Retained spectacle, for those that don't know, is when a snake starts to shed its skin, and if it hasn't shed properly, the skin can get caught behind the eye and it can become infected. And then we're looking onto our respiratory checks, and if you listen carefully, you can actually hear Theo wheezing. He does wheeze. He has got a little bit of a respiratory infection. It's nothing to really worry about. He is fine. He is very healthy. It's no sneezing or anything. There's no mucus or discharge. His mouth closes and it eats. The glottis is inside the snake's mouth, so you only know that if you have a look. Have a Google of that, see if you can have a look, and that kind of helps the snake eat its prey properly, swallow whole food. Okay, so really, those are the first things that you're looking at before you do anything. All right. So once we've done our visual and our behaviour checks, we're then going to move on to our practical physical checks, okay? Has the snake got keeled or smooth? Smooth scales, you run your hand across, very smooth. Keeled, you'll feel a lump. They might be rough. And then you're starting at the front, you know this guy's looking at the eyes, heat pits, check the tongue, is it even? Nostrils and scales. And scales, we have rostral, nasal, upper labials, lower labials, which are all across the mouth, and then we have other, so it might be on the body or some, back of the head, sorry. Then on the body, scales, lumps and bumps. Internal swelling, is there any kind of areas that are puffing out? Visible spine, which could mean that he's malnourished. Muscle contraction, showing pain, that's they squeeze in when they're in pain. And a weight check. So have a look at the size. The perfect shape for a snake should be the very end one, the circle. If it's a triangle, it's too thin. If it looks like a house, he's too fat. He's carrying fat underneath him, okay? Is there another shape that maybe you could see? Is that snake? Is he lumpy or anything like that? Tail, we're looking at abrasions, burns, compaction, which is where the animal doesn't defecate, so it builds up and it causes a big swelling behind where the cloaca is, and the cloaca at the back, I'll show you that with the Chinese water dragon. Check the scales, and then on the cloacal itself, you're looking at the cloacal scales, the anal, and the caudal down at the back, okay, caudal meaning at the tail. And that's really a very quick physical health check that we do. Now, like I said, I did make this sheet a while ago, so there are a lot more ins and outs, but that is just a very basic one that you can do, in a minute or two while you've got the animal out. All right. You can just see down at the bottom as well, influence of environment. Now that is very important, and we'll go over that a little bit more with the Chinese water dragon, as something like stomatitis, which is mouth rot, is heavily influenced by an animal's stress, and reptiles especially can get very stressed out from their environment if it's not set up correctly. All right, so keep that in mind.
Alright everybody, and now we're moving on to our second reptile. So here we have a Chinese water dragon. Now I did my introduction on them before. Now these, obviously a lot different to handling. Same kind of rules apply, sorry. You do support all the body weight. The tail, you've got to be very careful, because they don't use it really as a weapon, but when they do whip it round, it can be quite painful, it can catch you. like like a chameleon or an iguana, and they kind of whip round and it gets you. So it's like a little whip, all right? It's a stingy kind of feel. So be careful of that when you are getting them out and things like that. When you're getting them out, okay, guys, much like any other kind of reptile, bearded dragon, anything like that, the best thing to do, hands on the shoulders, get your hand underneath, straight on, okay? And then you can see I've still got my hand on, I'm supporting the weight, bring it back over the table, sorry, supporting the weight, but I've also got my hands across the shoulders so he can't run forward, can't get away from me, he's not going to be able to run off the table or anything like that. Or, I did mention what they like to do, what water dogs like to do, like to jump off and land in water. So they have been known to jump off tables and stuff thinking that there is water below them, okay? I'm just going to pop him back down. What I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how you would restrain him. We're only going to do this once, okay, because again, it can be a little bit stressful for them. So when we're restraining, what we're going to do is we're going to do the hand on the shoulders again, but as we do that, we're also going to pick up at the base of the tail. And as we do it, we need to make sure that the legs are tucked in, okay, so they're inside so that she has no power, she can't kind of push herself away. I've got her controlled and I've got her restrained, okay? So I'll show you. Hands at the shoulders, and I'm using my hands just like a kind of, my thumb and my finger to bring in. And then same again at the base of the tail, I'm bringing the legs in, and I've got restrained. And there you see, I can see the belly, I can lift up, I've got it supported, and I've got the legs in, okay? That's restrained. I can check what I need to do. Okay, I'll pop her down. You're all right. There, you see. Let's get her back on my hand. There we go. Let her calm down. So you see what I've done there, guys? I picked her up. She was getting a little bit funny. So I picked her up. I've just put her on me. I'm still holding her. I'm still restraining. But I've just let her get onto my t-shirt. Let herself feel safe. Remember, they are arboreal. So they live in the trees. So being low down on the table, she wants to get up. Okay? So what I'm going to do just quickly, I'm going to put them back on the table. Show you one more time. Okay? So again, my hand at the shoulders. Your hand straight under. I'm going to pop her on the table. Okay, you see, shoulders, bring the legs in, base of the tail, bring them in, got it. You see underneath the belly, and see on the spine, I can check the head if I need to. I've got her legs in so she can't run away. I can bring her into my body as well, if I have to. Anybody can check anything they need to. They can check the claws and stuff as well, alright? I'm just going to pop it down, and let her get herself set. There we go, let her get herself settled, that's it, okay? Now again, when you're doing a health check, I don't have a sheet like I do for the snake. I made that one a couple of years ago while I was at a different college. So when you're doing a health check, guys, you can have them on a table like this. You don't need to restrain them. They're very, very mellow animals, Chinese water dragons, in the long run. Okay, again, you're going to start at the front of the head. You're going to work your way back. So you're just checking at the front. And with reptiles, you follow the same thing as anything else, all right? Make sure that they can see you, make sure they can hear you. You're checking for discharge. Only difference are you're looking for specific diseases. So you're looking for something called stomatitis. That's a very, very common one, okay? And it's a bacterial infection in the mouth. It's called mouth rot, if you've ever heard of it. And you're looking for signs that the jaw is malaligned, all right? You're looking for, it's kind of like a yellow, gravy-like discharge from the mouth. And you're looking for this kind of black rot as well. And it's just a bacterial infection that breaks away at the skin and around the muscles in the jaw and stuff, okay? And that's really caused by stress, and that can be from a number of different factors. It can be not enough calcium phosphorus kind of balance, so the phosphorus is too high or the calcium's too high and it's not getting into the system correctly, which also can cause problems for MBD. It could be poor living conditions, so it could be lack of light, lack of D3. You know, it could be a build-up of bacteria in the actual enclosure because it's not getting cleaned out. So when reptiles get stressed, their immune system weakens greatly, and that's when they get very sick. So they're quite funny. You need to make sure that they get all their parameters. They're not as hardy as people like to think. So stomatitis is a big one. Again, as well, you're looking for things like shed. So I know I said you start at the front. I'm just going over general things. You're looking for shedding skin and stuff. Now, if the animal is shedding, never ever pull it off. Okay, let it come off naturally. If it's still held on, that means it's held on by some part of living skin. So you never take a piece of skin off that is shed and it's hanging on by a little bit, because it'll be like you pulling off a scab and the scab's only half healed. All right, it stings, doesn't it? And you don't want that for the animal. All right. Now, crested geckos, water dragons, sorry, their ears are internal. So if I just spin it around, you should be able to see a little hole there, just on the side of the head. Okay, so you want to have a look in there. Some dragons and some lizards and things and iguanas, what they have is, so when I'm looking in the ear, you're looking for these mites, little red mites. But like I said, some reptiles do attract mites to them. It helps them clean their skin and stuff as well, but remember they are parasites, so do check for them. Some iguanas and different species like that, and not 100% sure why, but it does happen. Alright, again, checking the skin, rubbing your hands down, make sure you check the eyes. Alright, check the mouth. Now I wouldn't open her mouth, okay, it's going to be very, very stressful for her. So what I do is I just make sure that I can see that she's eating, she's taking in fluids, and like that. When you're checking if a reptile is taking in fluids, you can tell by the skin. So I can see she is a bit dehydrated because the skin's folded slightly. So it's not like a nice even layer. So she might need a little bit of fluid. So that's up to her. She'll go in and she'll have a drink when she goes back. She was just basking on a log though when I got her out. So you know she was relaxing. Okay, so we're checking all around, checking the legs, the claws, the arboreal, remember what I said. So you're checking for them climbing. Have a feel, no heat. Remember heat means disease, infection, sorry. Check the tail. And especially check the tail because the tails can be a very early indication of MBD. They're very thin bones, so if they start growing misaligned, it's a very early sign that something is wrong. Have a feel, okay? And then what we're going to do is we want to check underneath, and to do that we'd have to restrain again. I've shown you twice. I'll show you one more time because we can check something called the cloaca and the underbelly. Alright, so I'm going to restrain and just turn her. So hands in, legs in. I'm just going to turn up like that, and you can see there, that's called the cloaca, okay? It's like a vent, all right? So all the genitals are on the inside, so when you're sexing reptiles, it can be quite difficult sometimes. You're looking at the kind of underbelly on Chinese water dragons and lizards and geckos and things and how they look. Some are broader, some are thinner. The cloaca looks different in certain areas, but again, you're looking for any discharge, swelling. Have a feel around in the sides as well, any hard areas, gas builds up, any undigested food that's kind of been sat there in stasis, and that can rot and cause issues, okay? And again, having a once over, checking the nares. Remember, you start at the front, you work back. I know I've kind of just gone through it with you very briefly, but it's overall a very healthy Chinese water dragon. Good coloration as well. Really good thing to notice, nice green coloration, okay? If you're looking at an animal and you just know when they're kind of like dark and really, really not kind of mottled very well. You see she's got like dark patches, but she's got very nice green areas as well on her legs. It's a nice uniform colour, banded tail running down, you know, very, very good coloration on her. And she's quite active before as well when I first restrained her, so that's a good sign. But yeah, coloration is very nice. You see if I just stroke her head here, she will kind of close her eyes. I don't know if you can see that, but she did. A lot of lizards like it. A lot of reptiles have something called a third eye on the head. Chinese water dragons don't. Green iguanas and things do, and it's like a scale, and that senses light. And if you stroke it, they tend to drop off. You just like your head being stroked, though, don't you? Okay. Overall, a very calm animal, though. All right. So restraining, legs in, using two hands, kind of base of the tail, bringing the legs in so you can't push off, and you've got them. When you're handling, just remember, same as a snake, I'm just going to turn myself. So bring them in, pop them on you. There you go. No, nothing there. No problems at all. Very nice animal to handle. And if they are getting a little bit funny like this and you feel more comfortable, don't hesitate to just bring them on you and just hold them. You see that? She's quite happy there. Remember, like I said, they're arboreal. They do like to be up high. She's very relaxed, just sitting there. Okay, nice and calm. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop her back. I'm going to get a video of Theo and her name's Darcy, by the way, in their enclosures. We can have just a quick look at that as well, talk about the enclosures and what they're in, the parameters and what they need, and then we're going to look at something called Raptor Boost as well. Okay, so let's do that now. Oh, let's let that focus. There we go. So here we have Theo's enclosure. You see he's in his water taking a drink there. Zoom in. Oh, he's coming out now. There he is, having a drink. And if anybody's ever seen a snake drinking, that's what it looks like. So there you go. So what we're going to look at, substrate. So you see it's kind of like it's coconut fiber based. You see there's some moss down here in the corner because that holds in moisture. Remember we said that they're from a very moist, humid area. So they're native to the Brazil mainly, but they're looking at forests and areas like that. We can have a look up at the top. You can see a light setup providing vitamin D3, so UVA, UVB. Also warmth, there will be a heat mat underneath there as well. He's got a branch that he does like to climb up on. Now he does come out regularly, it is worth mentioning that. And it is worth mentioning that the moss is there because when he sheds, so when he sloughs, it's called sloughing, guys, The moss helps him rub skin off because it's moist and wet, and you can get into it, and it does actually help him remove any dead skins, okay? Any dead skin cells, sorry. He's got his hide under there as well, so this will be a hot hide. All right, and then he's got his moss over there, which will be on the cold side. So you do need a thermal gradient inside reptile enclosures. So one side's warm, one side's cool. All right, you see the water's basically pretty much in the middle, so the hide will have a heat mat under it. Obviously underneath the tank itself, unless there's a heat bulb up there. Okay, you see in the corner there a little electronic humidifier checking that it is humid. Now he is due to be sprayed, so that's probably looking a little bit dry, but it is getting sprayed in about 20 minutes. So I'm going to wrap up in this room fairly quick so that the keepers can get in and sort them out. So there's his enclosure, and you can see simple lock on the top, little viv lock goes, slides on there, so it can't push the glass open or anything like that. Okay, a nice basic setup. All right, and here we have Darcy's setup. So remember we're talking about they were being arboreal, so up nice and high. So when I put them in, she did go straight up. You see he's got a large water bowl on the bottom for it to get drink, some fruit and veg, and on the back here, heat plate, warm enough to give off heat, cool enough that he can touch it and it's not going to burn. Okay, he or she, sorry, what is it, he? Female, it's a she, I was right the first time round. All right, humidifier on the back there, so you can see. All right, and she is due to be sprayed again. Again, the keeper's coming at the end of the day. Some foliage in there to make it look a bit natural. All right, so she likes to be up nice and high, climbs up, and you can see it's a tall tank to try and mimic where she would be in the wild. And at the bottom, partitioned off with an area so that they can't see out, so if we're walking past and she's feeding, she feels safe. So there we have Darcy's, and again, you can see a ceramic bulb inside there. So this thing has a ceramic bulb for heat, and then we have a UVA, UVB lamp up here providing daylight, so she absorbs all the vitamin D3 that she needs throughout the day. Okay, then up here you can see we have a UV replacement monitor, so it says when it was last changed, so we know when to change it again. So there's the tank. Again, basic setup. Gets plenty of time out through handling with students. Humidifier as well there, electronic one. Be temperature as well, guys, so that'll be humidity and temperature. So there'll be a little gauge up at the top, same as Theo, so it will measure both. All right, and again, a nice, good coloured Chinese water dragon. You see, nice and relaxed there. No signs of stress, no stomatitis, which is the mouth rot. Healthy looking skin. Bit dehydrated, you can see what I was mentioning. So if you pinch that, it would take a little bit of a time to go back down, but you can see overall a very healthy, nice animal. Okay, lovely. Just showing inside of Theo's. Up at the top here we have the UVA UVB bulb. We have a ceramic bulb in there for heat, and we're saying straight over the hide. Okay, so that is providing heat. Let's see if we can get underneath it. You can just kind of see there, and again we have the heat temperature along with the humidifier, humidity being taken in from that, and this is just the setup, and I'll show you where that is. And there's the electronic display that's linked into everything, and I'll show you if we close that, that's just where all his equipment sits. All right, I'll show you the same on Darcy's as well, because the last little bit if we had to access the equipment, all just here at the top. So there's the climate modify, and there's the ceramic lamp holder, and there's the bulb holder for the UVA UVB. Okay, and again that's just at the top through there. Easy setups, guys, nothing flash, nice basic easy things. And before we go, last thing I will mention, snake hook. So I did mention it with Theo, hand loop there, extendable. I'm just going to put the camera down. Alright, so it does extend out. It's not a very long one, is it? Again, I mentioned that there's a prong tip, so be careful. So let's just say if, what can I get here? Well, let's just say there's a long piece of string. I wouldn't just hook up, pick up and carry across. No, what you would do is ideally try and get towards the first third. So if the head's there, underneath, lift up, and you can control where the head's going to go. And then you can get from behind, and you can grab the tail, and then you've got those thirds area moved, and then you can move them over quickly to a handling table, pop them on, and you can handle them better. Or you can have your glass tube, remember I was saying? You will see some people will use large snake hooks to restrain a big snake. Now I don't like that, but I have seen it in, especially for things like Burmese pythons and stuff. They have a big snake hook, and if it's a carpet python that's aggressive or anything, they will kind of put the snake hook on the head and push down, and then pick up, and then get it like that, and then slowly lift up, so the head's already restrained and pinned down. You know what I was saying? We do it with your hands, so you can do that as you're going in. You do have to be very careful though, because I have heard of stories about people pushing too hard, killing the animal. Okay, so do be very careful of that. Now, I've mentioned about IBD with snakes. I've mentioned about stomatitis with Chinese water dragons. There's one more thing that we'll talk about very, very quickly, and that is salmonella. All reptiles produce salmonella. It's on their skin. It is not really an issue if your reptiles are looked after properly, but it can build up. Always wash your hands prior to handling your animal and after handling your animal, and in between handling. So when I went from Theo to Darcy, off camera, I washed my hands. Okay. I also antigened the table. You do not want this bacteria building up on the animals. It will make them sick, but also it will make you sick if you put your hands in your mouth or anything, or if you're handling food. Okay. Another bacteria to watch out for that lives in soil it's called botulism. Well, that's a disease. Sorry, it's bacteria causes botulism. And reptiles, especially snakes, because they're on the ground so much, they pick it up along their scutes. Remember I said the scutes is the bottom layer of scales, okay? So botulism is another thing, and that can make you very sick, but it can also make the animal very sick. So have a look at that. The HE, do a little bit of research, okay? You should know about salmonella because it causes food poisoning. So again, make sure that you're washing your hands regularly before, after, and between handling sessions, all right? You can't be too careful wiping down all your equipment as well, all right? What we're going to do next, guys, is we're going to look at ReptiBoost. Again, it's going to be much like the kennels and the physical examination of a snake photo. I'm going to get a picture and I'm just going to talk over the top of it. And if you've got any questions, you know where I am. Remember, my email is dg05269@eastdurham.ac.uk. Just grab the camera. Okay, so we're going to call it there. A nice short, sharp session today. Love reptiles, guys. I love them. I think if you want to be a herpetologist, go for it, especially working with things like Theo, the water dragons. We've got a lot of cool animals here as well. We've got a sulcata tortoise running around. Really, really cool animals. Lots to learn about them though, and lots still being learned about them. Just remember as well, they're very finicky to work with, so lots of like small moving parts in terms of misting systems, temperature gradients and things. You've got to be very on the ball with them. They can get sick very quick. They don't show ill health very quickly though. They get sick, they hide it, and then bang, they're sick. And it's, intervention time straight away. So that's something to keep in mind. Remember our handling techniques, you support and weight at all times. That's the same with any animal. Just remember with animals as well, you're trying to keep the head away from you. With the snake, supporting the body, split it into thirds, support in that sense. With something like Chinese water dragon, remember you're supporting the body at all times as well, because they can jump away, they can be very quick. And just think about how we said we handled the snake, kind of just behind the head, and you hold down, and then you can manipulate the body. And with Chinese water dragons, you bring in the legs in, because they're going to want to push off and kick away, aren't they? All right. So, top of my head, very basic, nice introduction to exotics in terms of the handling side of stuff and restraining. Done a little bit about snake hook. You don't really need any equipment for Chinese water dragon. What we're going to do next, we did a little bit about the enclosures as well. What we'll do next, guys, is I'll get the picture up of the ReptiBoost and we'll go into that. Okay, so let's crack on. So, as promised, we're going to be moving on to our ReptiBoost. Okay, now the first thing you need to know about it is you can either use it as a probiotic kind of drink for an animal. You can put it in its water bowl for it to drink, or you can use it as like a bathing tool. So remember, reptiles, they can absorb things through their skin. Now I know you can use it for any reptile, tortoise, snake, dragons, like bearded dragons, obviously. There's not real such thing as a dragon. Any reptile that you go through. Okay, so what we're going to do is, in a couple seconds, about 20 seconds, sorry, I've got the timer on this. The ReptiBoost front pack's going to come up, and then after a minute, we're going to kind of have a look through. You can see what it looks like, and then the ingredients are going to come on the back, and I'm just going to talk through the pros of using it. And really, it's a kind of all general go-to if you've got an animal that looks like it's feeling a little bit sad, its coloration's going off, or it's becoming a little sluggish. Maybe it hasn't eaten for a little bit. Okay, there we go. There's the front pack. A very, very lovely photo. So you can see there, electrolyte, probiotic, and energy drink for whatever. Okay, so as mentioned, it is a probiotic combo of bacteria, enzymes, electrolytes, and vitamins. So it's an all-round, it's an all-rounder to get the animal feeling better. It is not medical, veterinary kind of, it is not an intervention for that. It is just to give the animal a boost. So do not think that this is a cure-all for everything. It is not. Okay, it's just an added boost for the animal. Hence the name, obviously, Reptaboost. Okay, it has high palatability, so it can be added to drinking water, as I've mentioned, and it should be used at a ratio of 1 scoop per 500 milliliters of water. Now the tub comes with like a little scoop, so if you are using it as a bath or as a drink, that's still the ratio that you're going to follow. It can be used daily for all reptiles for a bath. All right. Now the main thing to think about when it comes to Reptaboost, and this is where some herpetologists get a little bit confused with it, it does not replace their calcium requirement. Now I know reptiles need calcium to survive, but they also need their phosphorus, and they need the calcium phosphorus kind of balance. It does not replace their calcium intake. All right, they still need to get their normal intake of what they would have in the wild, and also their vitamin D3 and stuff as well, right? And remember, this is just kind of a supplement to help them feel better. It's not a fix-all for everything, okay? It can help reptiles rehydrate as well, as I've mentioned, that it does absorb through into their skin. And again, it is safe for use on all reptiles, so you can use it for things like, I've mentioned bearded drags and stuff, but chameleons, some of your finer species as well. Okay, so you can see on the back there it says it's got glucose and maltodextrins in and things like that. That's obviously for the animals to feel better. Electrolytes, probiotics go in and they help the animal, the bacteria kind of level itself out if it is thinking that it's a little bit low, a little bit kind of feeling down or anything like that. Okay, and again you can use it as a bath. 1 scoop per 500 milliliters, warm water. Put the animal in, restrain if you have to. Remember our restraining techniques. Get it in and just cover the animal gently. You can use a small tub or something like that. Cover the whole animal. Keep it in for maybe between 5 and 10 minutes. Let the animal have plenty of time to absorb it all, calm itself down. If it's feeling a little bit stressed and it's not going to be thinking, oh, I need to drink, I'm not going to be absorbing any nutrients and things like that. 5-10 minutes, let it feel okay. If you have to, I would never put a lid on, leave it. But if you have to, just one hand and kind of turn away, give it a little bit of privacy as best you can. But you would never leave them just in case something did happen. You wouldn't want to be responsible for an animal stressing out and then being hurt in a box, and obviously worst thing comes to it, the animal's passed. All right. So with that very brief introduction into Reptaboost, and now you know kind of what it is and a little bit about how it works and what it can and can't do. Remember, it's not veterinary treatment. You get this over the counter at pet shops and things like that. This is just for the animals to kind of make them feel a little bit better if they're looking a bit under the weather. It's a general go-to. It is not a cure for everything. There's going to be a task in the description in the bottom of the video here on YouTube. I want you to open the description, have a look at the task, follow it, and send me the work. All right. If you have any questions, again, as always, contact me. Email dg05269@eastdurham.ac.uk. I hope you enjoyed the session. I do like reptiles. Again, we're going kind of into the basics of everything. We're not doing a deep dive of stuff just yet. Looking forward to getting you in for the practicals and really going through it all properly with you guys. There's only so much we can do on a video, isn't there? But yeah, looking forward to meeting you. Any issues, any questions, get in touch and we'll go through it together. Okay, cheers, stay safe guys, and see you soon.